Good morning. It's good to be with you today. Today is Labor Day. I'm recording this early, as you know that I do. I'm recording this on Friday. So I hope when you watch this Monday morning, I'll be asleep. That's my goal. My goal Labor Day is to sleep. That is what I'm shooting for. So we've been in Luke, and we're going to continue in Luke. But I begin to think about rest and Sabbath as we gather on Labor Day to read and reflect. I was thinking about passages that talk about rest and Sabbath. And of course, you have the Ten Commandments to honor the Sabbath day and keep it holy. I've always thought the story in the Bible about manna is interesting because with manna, God for did not allow them to gather manna on the Sabbath day. They had to gather twice on it would have been Friday. Um, because they were not allowed to gather manna on Sabbath, and if they gathered it would ruin because God wanted them to rest, and that got me. I was thinking about rest, and so I wanted to read to you from Hebrews. It's going to be Hebrews. I'm going to read chapter 3 into chapter 4, about verse 10 or so. We'll see where we wind up. Let's read Hebrews 3 and just like to start with verse 16 and moving forward. Now who were they who heard and yet were rebellious? Was it not those who left Egypt under the leadership of Moses? But with whom he was angry for 40 years? Was it not those who sinned, whose bodies fell in the wilderness? And to whom did he swear that they would not enter the rest? If it were not those who were disobedient. So see if they were unable to so we see that they were unable to enter because of unbelief. And this is the rest of the promised land. This is a reference to Psalm 95, kind of. Therefore, while the promise of entering the rest is still open, let us take care that none of you should seem to have failed to reach it. For indeed the good news came to us just as to them. But the message they heard and they did not benefit them because they were not united by faith with those who listened. For we who have believed enter that rest, just as God has said, as in my anger I swore they shall not enter my rest, though his works were finished at the foundation of the world. For in one place it speaks about the seventh day as it follows. And God rested on the seventh day from his works. And again, in that place it says, they shall not enter my rest. Since therefore it remains open for some to enter it, and those who formerly received the good news failed to enter because of disobedience. Again he sets a certain day, today, saying through David much later, in the words already quoted, today if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. For if Joshua had given them rest, God would not speak later about another day. So then the Sabbath rest still remains for the people of God. For those who enter God's rest will also cease from their labors as God did from his. Therefore, let us make every effort to enter into that rest, so that no one may fall through being disobedient as theirs. So, it's someone entering into God's rest. And we see in the Old Testament this notion of rest as the promised land. This is referencing those who did not make it into the promised land, that they did not enter into the rest God had prepared for them in the promised land because they were disobedient. So now the writer of Hebrews is telling us, hey, we have an opportunity. In the same way they were extended an opportunity to enter into rest, so are we. We have that chance to enter into God's rest. So let us not make the same mistake that they made. Let us not be disobedient, but let us actually enter in let us rest from our labors and enter into God's rest. And of course, he is talking about salvation through works, is what he's really talking about, that we are saved by the work of Christ, that our salvation does not rest upon our work, but our salvation rests upon the work of Christ. And we can then rest because we now know that it is not up to us to earn that salvation, but rather that salvation has already been done, been paid for. It is for us to receive, not to earn. And so, because when we know that, when we realize that salvation is not a wage to be earned, but it is a gift to be received, we then have the ability to rest, to rest. And so on this Labor Day, um, I hope you have a chance to rest, both rest physically. I mean, The Bible that says here talks about God resting from his labors. And so if God, the God of the universe, can take a Sabbath day rest, I think it's, and believe me, those of you who know me well know this is not something that I do well. This is a do as I say, not as I do situation. But if God of creation could rest on the Sabbath, we too should be able to find our rest. But our rest is not just physical. Our rest is spiritual. We need to rest in God's goodness, rest in God's provision, rest in God's grace. Um, I think about how when my kids were little, sometimes they were squirmers. I used to pick at them that they were not good bed partners because they kicked and squirmed and kicked and squirmed. And I think about sometimes as little ones, they just wanted to be held. They wanted to be held at the same time, kind of fighting. So you'd hold them and they'd squirm and squirm and squirm and turn and turn and turn. And eventually they'd kind of tucker themselves out and go to sleep. And I've always liked that image of God. In the same way, as a father would kind of hold them as they squirmed around and kicked around. Eventually they kind of settled in and just went to sleep. Eh, God holds on to us, but sometimes we kick, don't we? Sometimes we squirm. Sometimes we fuss. Sometimes we just won't be settled down or satisfied. And God doesn't let go of us when we kick and squirm around. God holds on to us, soothing us. I love there's a verse in Zephaniah that says he will he will rejoice over us with singing, and he will quiet us with his love. Um, in the same way a parent sings a lullaby to a child to comfort them and soothe them to sleep, to rest. God quiets us with his love. He soothes us with his love. And we can rest. We can rest. Have you laid down your burdens? And I don't just mean your physical burdens. I don't just mean the burdens that are heavy laden physically. Some of you may be physically tired today, and I hope that you get a chance to rest today. But 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 all of us are spiritually tired. I bet all of us have some spiritual exhaustion, some spiritual tiredness. We've been carrying a lot. It's a polarized time, and we're all stressed and tired, and it affects our soul, affects our body. One of my favorite books on trauma is called The Body Keeps Score. Um, rest. Rest today. Take this opportunity to rest. Physically, take you a good nap if you can. Watch some football if you can, rest, or watch whatever you like to watch and rest, but spiritually. Pray as you're resting. Listen as you're resting. Seek God's face as you're resting. But rest in his arms. Rest in his arm. Allow his love to renew you. Allow his peace to renew you. Allow his calm to renew you. Today, he says, well, it says, again, he sets a certain day today by saying through David much later, today you hear his voice. Do not harden your heart. So today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but today. Today. That's what we got, y'all. We got today. We don't Tomorrow's not promised and yesterday's gone. We have today. So take this day to rest. Take this day to rest. Rest in the Lord. Rest in his love. Rest in his mercy. Rest in his provision. Rest in his grace. So I hope you can rest in the goodness of God today. So I just felt like kind of talking a little bit about rest today on this Labor Day. Tomorrow we'll pick back up with Luke. I've been enjoying Luke. I'm looking forward to get back in that tomorrow, but I just hope that no matter where you find yourself today, you can rest. Have a great day.